All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 168-pound division, where it looks like we have a date for the Terence Crawford Canelo Alvarez fight. And I've spoken to an expert in boxing, a very, very well-known guy. I'm not going to say the name, that made a startling prediction to me for the fight with Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, in saying that he doesn't think that the fight is going to be close, but that it's not going to be close in Bud Crawford's favor. Let's talk about why he said that in this video. What's in a name? What's in a name? When you hear the name Canelo Alvarez, you think pound for pound top fighter. And you vision in your mind the best of Canelo Alvarez fighting. That's what you typically do when you're a fight fan. And for fans of specific fighters, it really does take a long time for a fighter's fans to see the decline taking place in a fighter. When I spoke with an expert, a guy that has very rarely been wrong on boxing matches, and trust me, I did not like it because he picked Terence Crawford to beat Errol Spence. Talked to him about what he thought about this particular fight. And he said that he did not think that this fight was particularly close. And it really just depends on how much of Canelo Alvarez has fallen off and how much of Terence Crawford has fallen off. But from what he saw, he thinks that this is a perfectly timed, match-made fight for Terence Crawford. Now, before I get into the details of it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you guys so much for your continued support. It really makes a huge difference to the channel, especially to the people that support and the super thanks of videos like this. This is a very, very dry time in boxing, so your donations really do help the channel, push the channel forward until we get some real fights like the one that we're talking about that hopefully will get made. So Terence Crawford, this is what my guy's his point on this is. Basically said, look, man, Terence Crawford is an exceptional fighter. And Terence Crawford has, in his career, has had an exceptional camp. They know very, very well exactly when they should fight somebody and when they should not fight somebody. And said, as far as it goes with Canelo Alvarez, that they believe that Canelo Alvarez, if he's the same size as Terence Crawford and everything else is equal, that Canelo Alvarez is pretty much tailor-made for Terence Crawford, because Canelo Alvarez does not like a lot of lateral movement, and Terence Crawford has a perfect blend of very solid lateral movement with the ability to feint, throw you off, counter you, and get out of there, right? So basically, he says that, look, if this was Canelo Alvarez 5 years ago, and this was Terence Crawford 5 years ago when they met, he said, look, I may go with Canelo Alvarez in that particular fight. I think Canelo Alvarez probably would have been able to do it at that point because Canelo Alvarez's reflexes have now significantly slowed, in his opinion. And he said, look, man, this happens, and you can see it when people get over 60 fights. When people start getting into their 63rd, 64th, 65th fight, it really does not matter how old they are in their physical years. It's how old they are in their boxing years. You see guys that, like, for example, in basketball, there's a famous trainer that's been training basketball players for decades and decades. And he said that kids now, they're coming out of high school, have he said, look, they said that they have the knees of a 3-year pro. By the time they are getting out of high school, they have the knees of a 3-year professional player. And why is that? Because of the amount of wear and tear that basketball players put on their knees now, because basketball players are training year round. They're lifting weights year round. Just a lot of wear and tear on their body that makes them slow down faster or at an earlier age than they would have done so before. And the same thing goes with boxers. Over time, you start declining. Over time, your body is not able to take, every sparring session, every road work, all of that stuff wears down on your joints. And so basically, even though Canelo Alvarez is a few years younger than Terence Crawford, when you look at the wear and tear that he's had on his body from turning professional when he was 15 all the way up to now in his 20th year as a professional and 20th years as a professional, over 60 fights as a professional, Terence Crawford is much younger boxing wise than Canelo Alvarez is. And that's the main thing that he's saying. And unlike when Canelo was fighting other opponents who are less experienced or less skilled where you can get away with it, that's not what he's going to be able to do with Canelo Alvarez. He says, look, man, if you look at the guys that Terence Crawford fought, whether it's guys like Caleb Plant or Berlanga or Munguia or those particular guys, none of those people had the ring IQ or the ring experience that Terence Crawford had going in there with Canelo. So Canelo could capitalize on things that he will not be able to capitalize on with somebody that has as much experience and is as well-rounded as Terence Crawford is. So essentially what this guy is saying is, look, this is a perfectly timed cherry pick. And the only issue he really has with it is saying, look, what's going to happen on the scorecards? Is Terence Crawford going to be able to get a decision on the scorecards? Or is Terence Crawford going to be in a situation where, it is usually like with Canelo, where all of the benefit goes to Canelo? At that point in time, I think you have to look at the contract and have to say, okay, well, what is the future plan for these guys? Now, that is something that would pull it in favor of Canelo Alvarez, because Terence Crawford is basically saying he has one more fight and he's done. Well, it's not in the interest of the people putting on the fight, in this case, the promoter Sella out of Saudi Arabia and Turkey Al-Sheikh. It's not in their interest to have Terence Crawford win and go off into the sunset and then have a depleted Canelo Alvarez coming off of a loss for the next two fights on his deal, right? So there's the political side of it that would say, yeah, the judges are probably going to could lean more towards Canelo, again, because of the factor of there's more fights on Canelo's resume. I would say that it would be about the amount of money generated in the fight, but that's not something that's going to be any consideration in this fight, because Canelo Alvarez is working with somebody that doesn't care about losing money, or at least he doesn't at this point in time care about losing a lot of money. At the end of the day, though, look, man, I'm looking forward to the fight. I think it's the most intriguing fight that I know of taking place for the rest of the year. I know, if you've been listening to me, that I'm not a big fan of Turkey Al-Sheikh, but I am a huge fan of boxing, American boxing specifically. And I do want Terence Crawford to make a ton of money. I want him to do very, very well in the fight. I want him to win the fight. All of the above, right? But at the same time, this whole way that this stuff is getting set up, there's no reason that, first of all, this fight shouldn't even be happening. The fight that should be happening is David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez. This is a poor replacement for David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez. In my personal opinion, it's also a poor replacement fight for Terence Crawford and Jaron Ennis if Jaron had went to 154. But, hey, man, it is what it is. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.